my incredible community of language educators, passionate learners, researchers, and fellow explorers of human communication. What an intro, right? Welcome to episode 126 of the Languages Pedagogy podcast. I'm your host, Mike, and today we're stepping into one of the most persistent and sometimes frustrating realities in language learning: fossilized errors, fossilized mistakes. Those stubborn, ingrained mistakes that just won't go away. The ones learners repeat for years, sometimes decades, even at advanced levels. The ones teachers correct over and over, only to hear them again in the next sentence. The ones that become so normalized that learners don't even hear them anymore. You know the ones I'm talking about. He go to school every day. I am agree. She can to drive. Or even pronunciation quirks like tree for three or sink for think. They're like bad habits on linguistic autopilot. But today we're going to ask a bold question. Can fossilized errors be undone? Is it ever too late? And not just that. Why do these errors stick in the first place? What's happening in the brain when a mistake becomes fossilized? Can we prevent it? And most importantly, what can teachers do about it? Obviously, without discouraging learners or killing their motivation, right? This is going to be a ride through neuroscience, pedagogy, psychology, and real classroom practices. Buckle up, because we're about to untangle the sticky web of long-term error. Get yourself comfortable, grab a cup of coffee or tea or any drink that you like, and let's get started. Woo!
Let's go!
Let's break it down into parts. Let's start with part 1. What exactly is a fossilized error? Let's start with a definition. A fossilized error is a language mistake that has become fixed in a learner's speech or writing and resists correction, even after being explicitly addressed. Now, not every repeated mistake is fossilized. Let's get clear. Some are just temporary hiccups. But when an error becomes automatic, unconscious, and persistent across context, and particularly when the learner no longer notices it, it enters the territory of fossilization. In applied linguistics, fossilization is often linked to interlanguage. That evolving linguistic system a learner builds while acquiring a second language. The theory, famously proposed by Larry Selinker, suggests that all learners develop an interlanguage that contains both correct target language structures and fossilized elements that deviate from the norm. But let's humanize this. Think of a student you've taught, or maybe yourself, who's been using the same error for years. Maybe they say, I have 25 years instead of I'm 25 years old. Or they always say, hey, he don't like it, despite knowing subject-verb agreement. Why does this happen? Why don't learners naturally self-correct over time? Part 2. The cognitive science behind fossilization. Here's where it gets fascinating. When we first learn a language, especially as adults, we process it consciously. We analyze grammar, memorize vocabulary, focus on pronunciation, but over time, as fluency increases, language production becomes more automated. That's great for speed and confidence, but it also means that errors become automated too. The brain stores these recurrent patterns in procedural memory, a type of long-term memory responsible for skills and habits. Just like tying your shoes or riding a bike. If you've been saying something wrong for years, your brain has likely encoded it as the default sequence. So even when a teacher corrects it, the brain's language autopilot kicks in. And here's the kicker. The longer the error goes uncorrected, the deeper it's buried in the brain's pathways. This isn't just about laziness or resistance to correction. It's about neural wiring. Part 3. Is it ever too late? Let's address the core question of today's episode. Is it ever too late to fix fossilized errors? The short answer, no. It's not too late. But it gets harder over time. The longer answer, it depends on motivation, awareness, frequency of exposure, and quality of feedback. Let's use a metaphor. Imagine you're walking through a forest. Every day you take the same shortcut path. It's a bit crooked, but you know it by heart. Eventually, your feet carve a visible trail through the grass. That's your fossilized habit. Now, you want to start using the correct path, but the new road is overgrown, unfamiliar, slower. You have to actively resist the urge to go the old way. But if you consistently choose the new path over time, it becomes the dominant trail. That's exactly what breaking fossilized errors is like. And research supports this. Studies in corrective feedback, especially those from Rod Ellis and Nina Spada, show that focus, repeated, and meaningful feedback can gradually undo even long-standing mistakes. It's hard, yes, but neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change and adapt, doesn't expire at 30 or 50 or 70. So no, it's never too late. Part 4. What causes fossilized errors or mistakes? Here are some of the most common culprits. 1. The L1 interference. Learners transfer patterns from their native language. For example, in Spanish, tengo 25 años becomes I have 25 years, right? 2. Insufficient feedback. In communicative classroom, we often prioritize fluency over accuracy. Errors go uncorrected, sometimes for years. 3. Low affective filter, high comfort. Once learners can communicate effectively, they stop noticing small mistakes. Comfort becomes the enemy of accuracy. 4. Overgeneralization. Learners apply rules too broadly. Think goat instead of went, or child's instead of children. Reinforcement by environment. If no one around corrects the error, or worse, everyone else uses the same error, it becomes normalized. Part 5. Classroom strategies to break fossilization. So what can we do about it? Here's the practical, boots on the ground part. And I want you to take note because these are the real tools and this one help learners break free from fossilized patterns. First, raise awareness through recording. Let students record themselves speaking, then transcribe it. Highlight the fossilized errors and ask them to reflect. Awareness is the first step toward change. Second, use focused error correction. Instead of correcting everything, choose one or two key errors per learner to focus on. Make those errors your mission for a few weeks. Third, recast strategically. Recasting, repeating a student's incorrect sentence correctly, is useful, but only when learners notice the difference. Train them to listen for it. Fourth, contrastive drills. Give side-by-side examples of correct and incorrect forms. Help the brain build a new trail by explicitly showing what's wrong and why. Fifth, error journals. Have students track their recurrent errors weekly. Make it personal. Celebrate when an error no longer shows up. Sixth, visual anchors. Use visual metaphors like language traps or habit holes to help learners understand that these are not failures, but patterns to be reprogrammed. And seventh, delayed correction in speaking activities. Interrupting fluency kills confidence, all right? Keep that in mind. For sure, most of you already know about it. Instead, take notes and give feedback after the activity. Then do a mini practice session on just those items. Part 6. Cultural and affective dimensions. Here's something we don't talk about enough. Shame. Many learners feel embarrassed when their errors are corrected, especially if they've been making the same mistakes for years. As educators, we need to normalize fossilized errors as part of the learning journey. Not a moral failing, not a character flaw, but a natural product of long-term imperfect input. In fact, I often say this in class: if you don't have fossilized errors, you probably haven't used the language enough. That usually makes students laugh and relax. Another cultural layer, in some educational contexts, correction is seen as criticism. In others, it's a sign of respect. Be culturally aware, be culturally sensitive. Build trust. Create an environment where learners welcome correction because they know it's coming from a place of growth, not judgment. Part 7. Real stories. Let me share a few snapshots from my own teaching. Story 1. The Italian engineer. I once had an advanced English learner from Milan. Brilliant engineer, fluent in meetings. But he always said, "I explain you," instead of "I explain it to you." For 2 years, no one corrected him. He thought he was right. When I finally pointed out, gently of course, he was shocked, but motivated. So we started a fossil fix routine, right? Every time he said it right, he logged it on a sticky note. After 50 successful uses, we celebrated. It took him 3 months to retrain, but he did. My story number 2, the Chinese professor. She had near native English, but always said people is. Why? Because in Mandarin, people is often treated as singular in translation. It had become automatic. We used contrastive analysis and video playback. The moment she saw herself say it repeatedly, she gasped. That self-recognition was the turning point. Let's wrap this up. Fossilized errors are not flaws in character. They're artifacts of experience, echoes of our first attempts at fluency. And sometimes They're a reminder of how far we've come. Yes, they're hard to fix. Yes, they take time. But they are not permanent, and it's never too late. As teachers, our job isn't to demand perfection. It's to plant seeds of awareness, to model the better path, to remind learners, hey, you've been walking this way for years. Let's try something new. And as learners, our job is to stay curious, humble, and open to change. And thank you so much for joining me today. If this episode resonated with you, whether you're a teacher battling recurrent students' errors or a learner navigating your own linguistic blind spots, know this. Language is a living thing, and nothing living stays stuck forever. Until next time, keep correcting gently, teaching boldly, and learning endlessly.